I am not made of flesh or bone, but of old scarred oak, polished smooth by 1,000 anxious hands and 100,000 moments of decision. My world is a stage of sawdust and sweat, the air thick with the scent of animals and anticipation. I am the gavel, the judge's hammer, the final word at the county's biggest animal auction. My voice is a sharp crack, echoing through the barn like thunder, and with every strike, I decide fates. I have seen hope born and hope crushed, all in the space between my rise and fall. Most days, I am wielded by Mr. Harlan, a man with a voice like gravel and a heart I can't quite read. His hands are rough but steady, and when he lifts me, the crowd hushes. I feel the pulse of the room through his grip, the nervous shifting of boots, the lowing of cattle, the whimpers of dogs in cages. I know the regulars, the ranchers with sunburned necks, the sharp-eyed breeders, the children clutching their parents' sleeves, eyes wide with longing or dread. I know the rhythm of the auction, the way excitement builds and breaks, the way laughter can turn cruel in an instant. Today, the barn is packed, the air buzzes with gossip, and the metallic tang of anticipation. I sense something different, a tension that prickles along my grain. The first lots go as usual. Prized calves, a pair of stubborn goats, a cage of kittens that makes the crowd coo and sigh. My strikes are routine, each one a door opening or closing, but I feel the weight of every choice. I have learned that mercy is rare here, and second chances rarer still. Then comes the dog. She is small, all ribs and trembling fur, her eyes too big for her face. The handler drags her forward, and the crowd erupts in laughter. "Who'd want that mutt?" someone jeers. I feel a pang, a strange, splintery ache. I have seen animals like her before, and I know what usually happens. The bids start low, then stall. The handler looks desperate. The dog cowers, her tail tucked so tight it might disappear. That's when I notice him. A young man, barely more than a boy, stands at the back. His jeans are patched, his boots scuffed, but his eyes are steady, burning with something fierce and stubborn. He raises his hand. The crowd snickers. "Let him waste his money," someone mutters. But the young man doesn't flinch. He meets my gaze. At least, it feels that way. As if he sees me. Not just the auctioneer's tool, but the silent witness to every heartbreak and miracle in this place. The bidding is over in a heartbeat. My strike is sharp, final. "Sold!" Mr. Harlan bellows, but I feel the word vibrate through me like a promise. The boy steps forward, and the dog, against all odds, lets him scoop her up. For a moment, the barn is silent. I sense a shift, a ripple of something new. Hope, maybe, or defiance. Days pass. I am left on my velvet cushion, but I hear the stories. The boy, his name is Jake, I learn, brings the dog home. She is sick, skittish, afraid of her own shadow. Neighbors shake their heads. Lost cause, they say. But Jake is patient. He sits with her for hours, coaxing her to eat, to trust, to play. I imagine her transformation, the way her fur grows glossy, her eyes bright. I imagine her running, free and wild, the way all creatures should. At the next auction, Jake returns. This time, the dog walks beside him, tail high, eyes shining. The crowd stares. Whispers ripple through the barn. Is that the same dog? Can't be. But I know. I remember the tremble in her legs, the way she flinched at every sound. Now she moves with confidence, her head held high. Jake stands taller, too, as if her courage has become his own. The auction is different this time. The regulars watch Jake and his dog, their laughter tinged with something like respect, or maybe envy. A new lot comes up, another frightened animal, another round of jeers. But Jake raises his hand, and this time, others follow. The bidding is fierce, determined. I feel the energy shift, the old cruelty giving way to something gentler, more hopeful. My final strike that day is louder than any before. It rings out, not just as a verdict, but as a challenge. I am only a gavel, a piece of wood shaped by hands and history. But in that moment, I feel powerful. I have seen the worst of people, but now I see the best. I see second chances, not just for animals, but for everyone in this barn, including me. I know I will be here long after Jake and his dog are gone, long after the crowd has changed and the world has moved on. But I will remember this day, this moment, when hope cracked the silence and something new began. And maybe, just maybe, the next time I fall, it will be for another miracle. I am not supposed to feel pride, but as the barn empties and the dust settles, I find myself humming with it. The echoes of my last strike still linger in the rafters, mingling with the scent of hay and the distant, hopeful bark of a dog who once cowered at my call. I have always been the end of the story for so many, yet today I was the beginning. That night, as I rest on my cushion, I replay the day's events in the grain of my memory. I remember the way Jake's hand trembled, just a little, as he led his dog through the crowd. I remember the hush that fell, the way even the most hardened ranchers seemed to pause, as if seeing something they'd forgotten was possible. I wonder if they saw what I did, that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can split the world wide open, but the world is never content to let hope go unchallenged. The next auction brings a storm, literal and otherwise. Rain lashes the tin roof, and the barn fills with a restless, uneasy crowd. There are whispers about Jake, about how he's ruining the game, about how soft hearts make for weak hands. I feel the tension in Mr. Harlan's grip, the way his knuckles whiten as he calls the first lot. The air is thick with suspicion, and I sense that something is about to break. Jake arrives late, his dog at his side, both soaked but undeterred. The regulars glare, their laughter sharper now, tinged with something darker. The bidding is fierce, almost cruel, as if the crowd is determined to prove that kindness is a fluke, a mistake to be corrected. I am raised and lowered, again and again, my strikes ringing out like warning shots. Then, a twist I never saw coming. A wealthy breeder, known for his cold eyes and colder deals, bids on a dog that Jake clearly wants. The price climbs higher and higher, far beyond what Jake can afford. The crowd watches, hungry for defeat. Jake hesitates, his hand faltering. His dog whines, pressing close to his leg. I feel a splinter of dread. Am I about to witness hope crushed beneath the weight of old ways? But then, from the back of the barn, a voice calls out. It's Mrs. Ellery, the widow who always sits alone, her eyes kind but sad. I'll match his bid, she says, nodding at Jake. The crowd gasps. For a moment, the old order teeters. Others join in, small offers, gestures of support. The breeder scowls, but he can't outbid the tide of quiet defiance. My strike is softer this time, but it feels like thunder. The dog is Jake's. Afterward, as the barn empties, I sense a new energy in the air. The regulars are quieter, thoughtful. Jake and his dog linger, talking with Mrs. Ellery and the others who stood with them. I realize that something fundamental has shifted, not just in the auction, but in the hearts of those who come here. I am still just a gavel, but I have become a witness to a revolution, one small act at a time. I know there will be more storms, more battles between hope and cynicism, but I also know that every time I fall, I carry the memory of this day, this change. I am not just the end. I am the possibility of a new beginning, every time my voice rings out, and as long as there are hands willing to raise me for kindness, I will keep striking for second chances. The seasons turn, and I watch as the barn's faces change. Some of the old regulars drift away, replaced by new bidders, families, young couples, even a few who once only came to jeer. Jake becomes a fixture, his dog, now named Daisy, always at his side, her coat gleaming, her eyes bright with trust. I see them every month, sometimes helping others, sometimes just watching, but always reminding the crowd of what's possible. The laughter that once mocked now carries a different note, softer, almost proud. But the world, I've learned, never stops testing the fragile things. One auction day, a commotion erupts at the barn doors. A truck has broken down, and inside is a crate with a litter of puppies, sick, shivering, barely alive. The owner, desperate, tries to sell them off as a lot, but the crowd recoils. "Not worth the trouble," someone mutters. I feel the old chill, the one that used to settle in my grain when hope seemed lost. Jake steps forward, but this time he hesitates. He's already stretched thin, and the crowd knows it. The bidding is silent. Even Daisy seems to sense the weight of the moment, pressing her nose to Jake's hand. I can almost feel his heartbeat through the air, the way his resolve wavers. For the first time, I wonder if the story will end differently, if kindness will finally be outbid. Then, unexpectedly, a little girl tugs at her mother's sleeve. "Can we help?" she whispers, her voice carrying in the hush. The mother nods, and soon others join in. Small offers, a few dollars here, a promise of food or shelter there. The auction becomes a chorus, not of competition, but of community. My strike is gentle, almost reverent, as the puppies find homes, not just with Jake, but with half the barn. That night, as the barn empties and the lights dim, I rest on my cushion, feeling something I've never known before, a sense of belonging. I am still just a gavel, a tool shaped by hands and history, but I have become more than a symbol of endings. I am the sound of new beginnings, the echo of hope that refuses to be silenced. I know I will never leave this barn. I will never run through fields or feel the sun on my back. But I have seen lives change with a single strike. I have watched cruelty give way to compassion, and I have learned that even the smallest voice, wood against wood, heart against fear, can change the world. So when the next auction comes, and the next after that, I am ready. I wait for the moment when a trembling hand will rise, when a voice will break the silence, when a second chance will be born. And as I fall again and again, I know I am not just the end. I am the hope that lingers, the promise that tomorrow can be kinder, and the memory that even a gavel can carry a heart.